What's going on, everybody? It's Lance Hayes in
It's
Germany
Jeremy and
and
the Jeweler.
we are Sports Social Live. We're doing it live, having a couple of technical difficulties. Internet's tripping on me, but we're gonna have the internet's going nuts pretty soon. We are going to get into it today and get a little bit busy with the Houston Texans. So the Houston Texans are 7-1 taking or 6-3 taking on a 7-1 Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. I'm excited for the game. How you feeling, big dog?
I'm excited too, man. It's a prime time game. We got the Lions coming in. Them boys been embarrassing dudes, man. So we'll see if we got some fight in us.
That's the big thing that I want to see this week. How we go into this with the mentality. We know we're down starters. The injury report is pretty lengthy. Uh, there was Nico Collins news. Is he coming back from IR or not? We'll talk about that a little bit later. Just a lot of things going on with the Texans, which kind of play into their mentality. You see the swarm mentality for the defense, but I don't think the team has a full identity for the entire team. So like they have the next man up thing, but it seems like people are just sad around the team. So
Yeah,
what are your
yeah.
thoughts on it?
I mean, the offensive line has kind of taken the air out of the excitement around the team. But there are some good spots, like, not to go D'Amico on us too hard, but the defense is a top five defense. We have a legit star at running back. And if we can clean up some of the blocking, man, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. It's just kind of tough to see like just everything that's going on with the Texans. It is difficult just to kind of see the offense take the air out of the team, man. I kind of just want to see it a turn around and be in a different light. But hey, we're here now, so we got to do something, man. We got to do something. But let's
Yeah.
get it rolling with this Sunday night football matchup in the H. Battle red, candy paint. It seemed like it's gonna be a late game. You excited for
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
I'm
Man, I'm
excited for
excited
it,
for it,
dog.
bro. We undefeated at home, man. Like we got to protect the crib. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Detroit come down here and on Saturday, y'all got Houston got to show them boys some love, man. Give them a little noodle leg. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Give them
Yeah,
boys a
I
little
don't know
noodle
what's
leg.
gonna happen with it, man. But it definitely I know the fans, people complain about the fans getting into the game a little bit later. I think the Sunday night football game is gonna be unique for Houston because we don't get too many Sunday night football games, right? We don't
Yeah,
get too many times to be on prime time. And this is one of those instances where Houston needs to show out. Thursday night football was a dud for us, but I mean, it kind of was expected with the logistics in a short week, flying up to New York. This is Sunday night football in the great state of Texas, so they have to come on with it. That it has to be some fireworks. The show has to go pretty crazy. I want to see something. I want to see them show out at least, make it a competitive game with all the factors that are given. So let's
yeah.
get into this show, and we're gonna talk a little bit about this week's stat line, a little stat tracker for the Texans. So the Lions offense, man, the points per game for the Lions is 32.1 points per game. That's
Mhm.
how you feel about that, big dog? How you feel about
I mean, their offense been clicking. Jared Goff has looked like an MVP candidate. They got weapons all over the field. They got a star at tight end in Laporta. They got a great group of wide receivers and Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
right?
Then they got the two-headed monster at running back with Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery, who seems to be ageless. I remember picking that boy up as a sleeper when he was with the Bears on my fantasy team. But
Right,
now that
man.
I mean, he's still getting the job done, man. They play with attitude, and I think
Yeah,
that's
they play.
how we talk about we want an identity for our team. That's what you want. Like I talk about Detroit a lot because I like how Dan Campbell came in and changed the culture. Like they have that dog fight mentality on both sides of the ball.
Agreed. I like the dogfight. I like how they focused on building that offensive line. I mean, you see the stark transition between the high top tier offensive line and offensive play, tenacity and grit. We keep on repeating that versus the Texans, and just you said putting that intensity into the team. And you can see it all throughout the team, from the receivers to the DBs. Everybody has that intensity level, man. And you can see on the offensive side of the ball, it's they producing, and they gave golf a second chance at life. So it's dope to see that he's balling out too, because it
Yeah.
shows that just because you're a rookie QB or you're going through a pre career or early career kind of struggles, you can go and have a resurgence. And I think that's something good for these younger QBs.
Well,
Keeping it
I
rolling
think
the
bro
past.
too. I think too, bro. We got to realize that Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl. It ain't
Yeah,
like he was a tanker on the team. He just wasn't the guy for the Rams to get over the hump in winning the Super Bowl. I mean, he got him there. And so and I
yeah,
think the system that he's in now, a very like run centric system that's allowing him to throw, very he not throwing 50 balls a game. He not airing it out. He has the ability to be accurate, easy reads. The rank game is good, so it's not a lot of guys in coverage as opposed to with the Rams. Yeah, they were a run first team, but they were pass centric.
right.
So like you had a lot of single back formations, three wide, four wide. You got a lot of DBs on the field when you was playing against the Rams. So that makes it a little more difficult. But with the Lions, man, they make you go big. They make you have to get in there and tighten up in the box. And I think that allows for him to have easier throws and to get in a rhythm.
Man, I agree, man. I think it's good for him, man. It's just a good place. It shows when you build a team and put everybody in the right place, you can make the plays, man. So I like what they're doing with them. And I like the squad, man. I like seeing them
Mm-hmm.
play. But going back to that and going back to the Texans, kind of trolling the boards. We have a couple people coming in on Twitch. Just going back to the Lions offense, the passing yards per game, 279.8 is seventh in the NFL. Rushing yards, 122.4, 13th in the NFL. Looking at those things, they are they they're normal. They are who we thought they are. So they do have places where the Texans defense can expose, and they're going against one of the top defenses in the league. How you feel about those stacks with the running game, the passing yards per game being at seventh, and the rushing games being at
Yeah.
122 yards at 13th? I mean, hey, that's not crazy to
Yeah,
say they
no,
had
it's
two
not
headed
it's
monster.
not crazy. I mean, being a top 10 passing offense is great in this league, but it's really just the consistency and a balance that they're able to have. I mean,
Yeah,
middle of the pack rushing, but then you got to realize that's with injuries. There were games where Gibbs was out, there were games where Montgomery was out. So, like,
James
even with that,
Williams
they
are
kind
hurt
of
too as well.
floating around the middle. And I just think our defense is really good. Like we can stack up against the best offenses in the league. So that'll always keep us in games. So that's why the spread isn't super crazy because our
Right.
defense is really good.
And we'll get to the defensive stats in a second.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah,
mean, I think we're in a good place right there as well. So, to
yeah.
keep it pressing and transition on to Texans offense, points per game is at 19.3, 28th in the league. And we still have been in games and have a good record. So, that's terrible with the points per game. So, that's a testament to our defense. How
Hmm.
you feel about that?
Well, I think that too. We haven't played good football all year.
Right.
On offense, we've had games where we kind of got close to that 30-point mark, but when we played against the elite teams, we haven't showed up like we needed to on the offensive end, and it hasn't necessarily been like bad offense. It's just
Right.
inopportune mistakes, fumbling and interceptions in the red zone, taking sacks to knock us out of field goal range, kicking field goals when we should have got a touchdown. Like those
Halfback
are things,
passes
right?
in the red
Halfback
zone.
passes, missed field goal, like all of these miscues. These are self-inflicted things. We've been able to move the ball, and if you take out the two anomaly games, the game against the Jets where CJ only threw for 100 yards, and then the week before the game against the Packers, where he only threw for like 90 yards. You know,
Right.
we were the best offensive passing team in the league. So
Yeah.
you know, the framework is there. We just got to put it in play. Like that our ability to put it in play is the question. It's not that whether if we have it or not, it's whether we can use it the proper way.
Exactly. I think it's a lot. It speaks to the game management too. Like you said, I think you mentioned it and you kind of alluded to it. The game management for the Texans is just it puts you into question on what's going on because sometimes it doesn't look like it's always the offensive line. It's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about Bobby Slowick's scheming, the timing of the play calls, and just
Mm-hmm.
his redundancy is you can see what's going to happen when before the Texans do it. We're in third and long often, and it's
Right.
easy for defenses to kind of understand what we're going to do. Run, long pass. That's what his kind of battle rhythm was. So Bobby Slowick
Mm-hmm.
kind of does not give the offense any favors. He's still learning himself, I believe. He's still trying to improve as offensive coordinator, as we discussed before. So you see the Texans offense being a lower ranked team offensively because you got the passing yards at 21st with 272.17.2 rushing yards per game, 109.6 and 19th. And the interesting thing about that is Joe Mixon has been going off. So that means we've had a ton of tackles for losses. And
Yep.
it's a tribute to the offensive line and the scheming. Bobby Slowick isn't scheming his offensive line to be successful in the run game. A lot of longer pulling plays that don't impact the run. And we talk about that often. So, overall, what's your thoughts on the offense? I mean, we kind of talked about it, but the stats tell the story.
Yeah. The stats tell a story to a certain extent, but it's just really that interior offensive line getting to par. You know, we
Right.
don't. I feel like if we get to par to where we just got a body on a body, we're not necessarily Detroit. Where, I mean, if you look at their team, you watch their games, they running backs not getting touched for 2 yards. You
Right.
know, and so we not at that level yet. And we can just get a body on a body with the way the zone blocking scheme work and how good Joe Mixon is. You know, he don't have people jumping out in front of him as soon as he get the ball. We can actually get a consistent running game going, and then we can start seeing some of that play action working.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then just to kind of finish out here, because we're hitting a minute marker here, the Texans defense, man. The Texans defense has been going crazy. And points per game, they're at fourth place, 18.2 sacks. They're tied for fourth with 27 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Takeaways tied for sixth with 15. And then the Texans home record is 4-0. Lions away record is 3-1. The Texans defense has been balling, and these don't tell all the stats. When you go to the next generation stats, the Texans
Mm-hmm.
are number 2 in pressures, close to number 1 in pressures. How do you feel about this Texans defense?
Oh man, I love the defense. We gave them grades earlier in the week, and
Right.
our front seven, man, front six, it's only gonna get better because we're getting Aziz back this week. I think Jimmy Ward not the best in coverage, but he has those veteran instincts, and he'll be able to close down turn a lot of those short plays that were going for long yards into
Yeah,
just short plays, right?
I agree.
That's where he's good at.
I agree. I mean, yeah, Jimmy Ward in coverage is a concern, but the leadership ability he brings to the field, coupled with Aziz Alshire underneath ability to get into those
Mhm.
kind of those seam routes, I think that's a good compliment to Petrie down there in that front six, like you said. The
Mhm.
Texans front six is crazy right out there now, and they're responsible. They play responsible football, and that's
Right.
the biggest thing you have to do with those pass rushing lanes. You hit Will Anderson Jr. is banged up. He hasn't practiced this week. So that'll be something to watch out for. But with Will Anderson out, you still have ballers on the defensive line.
Yep.
Uh, you have the Tim Settle Juniors, Fudukasi. They are playing
Nico
high level
Autry.
football, huh?
Nico Autry.
Nico Autry playing high
Yep.
level football on budget contracts, a lot of them, and
Mhm.
we're getting the Miko's getting the most out of his defense, and I don't think Bobby Slowick can do that for the offense.
Right. Right. No, not right
So
now.
Nah, he's struggling. So that's what we had to talk about the stat tracker. We're gonna go into a little bit. One of the things I do notice about the Texans this game is that the Texans are good at home. They are 4-0 at home, with the Lions being 3-1 away. This is a kind
Mhm.
of opportunity for the Texans to exploit the home field advantage, utilize the Houston crowd, and just kind of show the nation that they are one of
Yeah.
the top tier AFC teams in the league. What do you think about this home field advantage?
Man, I love it, man. We've been playing against teams where we felt like we shouldn't have won, like Cleveland last year. We got them at home and was
Right.
able to knock them off. And then just historically, man, all of our playoff wins have been at home. We've had some primetime games at home that we were able to win, like on the holidays against the Lions, being one of them. So I feel like we do play better at home. Like they're comfortable, they're in a routine, and the fans, man, like we get a bad rap for showing up late, but I mean they cause a lot of issues.
Right.
Once they roll up in there,
Once the Michelob start rolling and
yeah,
the Vatos come
when
in, it
boys
get
switch to
real.
beer,
Yeah.
boy, get off that liquor and switch to beer, it's going down.
Yeah, to speak to that home field advantage, I think it's great to see what it has, and I love going to the Texans game. I'll be at the Lions game this weekend, but I think the Texans fans need to have more tailgate cams to show, hey, maybe we're not packing this game out right now. You dim the lights at the top. I think other people talk about dimming the lights in the building, but actually show tailgate games cams to show that this Texans team is like just lit all over. We're lit
Mhm.
on the outside and the inside. I think
Right,
that'll
right.
help that, and it kind of gives the crowd more to look for on this Sunday night football. I know
Mhm.
people gonna be drunk as hell though this weekend, so this crowd should be lit and live at home with the Texans being 4-0 at home. So I'm ready for that game, man. I'm ready
Yeah.
for it. We're gonna keep it rolling and see who is ready for the week. Will Nico return? What are your thoughts on Nico, bro?
Soft tissue injuries, man. That is my biggest fear when it comes to injuries in this league because they linger, and I feel like if we can, as long as we can keep them out to let it heal, because that's the only way to heal a soft tissue injury is time.
Yeah,
Time and rest is the only thing you can really do, and obviously stretching and making sure you pliable, those things. I have my issues with our strength and conditioning, but I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't think he'll be back. He's still on injury reserve. And if they feel like they should hold him longer, I think we should, man. We got a tough stretch after the bye week, and we're gonna
yeah.
really need him. Like we need him now, but we still got a little 2 game cushion to play with. But down the stretch, we for sure gonna need him.
Yeah, I think going into this week, you have a tough Sunday night football game, and the masses want to see Nico return with everything that's going on with the offense.
Right.
However, if you can rest him this week and possibly give him more rest against the Cowboys and sneak out of the Dallas with a win, I believe that
Mhm.
that soft tissue injury can heal up. You get him back, you get a couple of people back on defense, and I think it's a solid way forward. They Speaking of returning, Christian Harris, man, I think it's the craziest thing that they said he might return week 15. That's crazy to even
Yeah.
say. But I mean, hopefully that calf muscle's back on the bone. I've never seen
Yeah.
anything like it. It's weird. The Texans are doing odd things with their injury report, and you mentioned it before, trying to be like Bill Belichick and be
Right. Right.
secretive. But it doesn't bode well for a lot of the Texans fans, like
Yeah.
myself. I should just
And
admit it.
like that calf muscle is serious though. That's the same thing really was happening with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
Your calf and your Achilles and your heel, that's all one hookup. And that if that goes, you done. So I
man.
think
But
they're trying to be cautious with it, to make sure that because you can't really tell until you start to put a little stress on it. And
yeah,
so I think that's what's happening. They can't tell, and you know,
yeah. Man, they's off the bone. He playing out there wingless. So
yeah.
hopefully we get Nico Collins back this week. The Texans injury report is very rather lengthy this week. Yeah, Damian Pierce did not practice. Will
Mhm.
Anderson Jr. banged up, did not practice. Dameon Pierce's injury is just a testament to durability, and the best
Hmm.
ability is availability. I think
Yeah,
that injury with Dameon Pierce is annoying to me because we need him in the kick return game. The special teams
yeah,
game hits on different cylinders with the quick switch guy like Dameon Pierce back there. And I hope he gets better, but it's just this season has been the past 2 seasons have been kind of just tough for Dameon Pierce, man.
and maybe Florida knew something we ain't know. That's why they ain't
Yeah.
give him the ball a whole lot
Yeah. Hey,
when he was there.
hey man, well, I wish him the best in getting back, but definitely does not bode well for him. That's why you get third
Mhm.
and Dare in there, and he's gonna ball out
Yeah,
for us. Hey, the Cam Akers trade was weird. Now you think Cam Akers might have been more of a impact, had more of an impact as well. So a
he
lot
ain't
of
have
weird
it though,
things. I don't
bro.
know
Like
what
I
went on.
get what people saying, like because he had a good game with the Vikings, but like if
Yeah,
you watch Cam Akers running for us, he ran solid. It was a solid get
yeah.
your head down and pick up the yards. I mean, he wasn't. It wasn't worth having a fourth running back on a
Oh,
roster, especially if you knew
definitely.
you wanted to roll with Damian Pierce.
Yeah, JJ Taylor is essentially doing exactly what Cam was doing. So I
Yeah,
mean, you can
and
do it
Cam couldn't even
quicker.
play special teams, so
Yeah, because them Achilles are fall the hell off. So, so yeah, man, I think that it's definitely interesting to see what they have, and the injury report is crazy for him too. So Elshire is still listed as questionable. Damian Pierce is listed as questionable with growing, and Nico Collins is listed with the hamstring. Wasn't spotted at practice, and it's gonna be something to see. But keeping it rolling, I got the key matchups. We got key matchups, big dog. My
mhm.
key matchup for the game was the Texans D line versus the Lions O line. Thoughts on the matchup?
I mean, that's that's what's going to determine the game. If they beat us up like we've been getting beat up, I don't think we have a chance at winning. The Lions play a lot of man coverage, and so if Stroud don't have time to drop back and set, we're gonna be in for a long day, and there's gonna be a lot of turnovers.
Facts. I agree, man. I think that yeah, it's gonna be a test. But Stroud is getting frustrated. He's visibly frustrated. He's throwing his
Hmm.
helmet on the sideline. He's trying to get back into spirituality. You hear all these things, mental health talks
Hmm.
and stuff like that.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. But all you can say is ultimately the Texans offensive line is draining the team, right?
Right.
But we're talking about the Texans D line right now. I think the Texans D line can go crazy on the Lions O line.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and Lions O line, right? They are responsible too. So it'll be interesting to see how the Texans D line can kind of exploit their responsibilities in the defensive line. I think it might be go down to a scheming thing, but
Yeah.
D'Amico put the people in the right places, man.
Yeah,
Um,
and my bad, I read that wrong. But
yeah,
so I do think the Texans have a slight advantage on the interior. The Lions tackles are exceptional. I mean, even
right,
with Will Anderson, Penei Sewell, he an anchor over there.
right,
So the interior line though, they're maulers, meaning
yeah,
they like to put a lot of steam going forward, and we have quick defensive linemen. And so they don't. So the interior line of Detroit, they not A1 pass blockers. They are probably a B minus in the pass blocking, and I think the quickness of our interior D line would cause them some problems.
yeah. I think this is a good game for Tim Settle to pop off, and I talk about Tim
Mhm.
Settle often, but hey, man, he brings life to the team down
Right.
from the interior. I think the Texas D line will be successful in this game. It just
Yeah.
depends on how well that interior line, O line of the Lions play. I mean, they have
It's speed.
Ragnar.
It's speed versus strength.
Yeah, yeah. Ragnar, I think that's the center's name. Is it
Yeah.
Ragnar? Let me see. Yeah, Ragnar. Now, Ragnar, the center for the Lions, is strong,
Yeah.
strong, and he gets downfield. I liked how he was playing. I don't know what one play I watched, he went up to a third level, man.
Yeah.
Crazy to
No,
see him getting
he a
downfield.
bad boy.
Yeah, and he's smart. He owns the line. He commands that line like a good true center should. Like a little bit grittier than Ben Jones, and it was crazy to watch that play, right? So,
Right.
um, just want to see this Texans D line versus this O line. It's gonna be a crazy matchup, man.
Mm-hmm.
And to see what the holes they open up. Again, the Lions are about seventh or eighth in rushing. They're not the
Mm-hmm.
best rushing
But
team
they 13th in
because
rushing.
13th in rushing, yeah. They're
Yeah.
not the best rushing team, right? So this is an opportunity for the Texans to kind of exploit that, get them tired, wear them down, and start getting Jared Goff to move off that center line, man. I think
Yeah.
that's where the Texans will have the most success. So they're 13th in rushing, middle of the pack. The Texans do well against middle of the pack rushing teams. That's
Yeah.
just
And
clear.
then just like I say, they're a strength kind of offensive line. So I think the
Yeah,
speed of our front four will cause them a little trouble.
it's crazy, crazy to see. Let's go to the next key matchup. The next key matchup I have, big dog, we're going Lions receivers versus the Texans secondary.
Yeah. Phew. Man.
Hey.
Is Jameson Williams playing? Because I know Jameson
Yeah,
Williams got
he's
suspended
back.
for doping.
Yeah, that dope. He back. He's back.
Uh,
Jameson
that
Williams.
speed, man. He got the
Jameson
top. He
Williams.
can take the top off the goddamn Maybach.
Can't
Uh,
he? But it's more than that though. You got St. Brown, Williams, then you have Allen Robinson in the fourth
hmm
slot for the receivers. Come on now. They
yeah,
they're balling. They're balling.
but St. Brown and Robinson there, like I don't worry about the Texans pass coverage with those underneath kind of mid level receivers. I mean, it's really just
Right.
getting up on the safeties. Those receivers who can get up on the safeties pretty quick, or attack Lassiter's hips, make him turn his hips a lot faster than he would like to. Those guys give us
Right.
trouble, and so I
Yeah.
think we got beat last by the Jets with a couple slot guys, and they like to move Jameson Williams into that slot with that speed, and I like Petrie. That's my dog. But,
Yeah.
man, they gonna put my boy in some space, man. That's the only thing I'm worried about. That speed
Man.
from Jameson Williams. And Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot too. He's a mismatch for what we can do. I think we need to move Stingley a little bit.
Man, it's going to be a battle. I think this is in this area with Williams back. I think this one kind of goes and leans toward the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Just from, w- I mean, what we see, man, it's going to be difficult for us to match up. Ward's coming back. Ward has half a growing. He gets put out there on a like he can't. I don't even think he can help Petrie out if he gets in a bind. The
Right.
best thing, our best hope is that Texans front seven, front six, getting after Goff and knocking them off. But even then, I feel like if Goff's able to extend the play, I don't think the Texans back end can truly keep up with
No.
St. Brown and the receivers. And I think
Yeah.
everybody's looking at Petrie now.
Yeah. St. Brown in the slot. I mean, that's what the Jets figured out. Let's
Yeah,
let's move our guy into the slot, and whoever in the slot, that's where we're gonna go.
facts,
So with
facts.
Jeff Okuda being back, maybe that might change the plans a little bit. Maybe we
Yeah, I
might
want
go
to
a
see
little
how
more
they
deep.
play with. I want to see how they play with Jeff Okuda, dog. That's gonna be
Mhm.
interesting to see. I mean, is he? How would they fit him into this defense? Um, I
He's a
don't
slot guy.
know.
He's a slot
Yeah,
guy.
he's
So I think if we go a little more dime defense,
yeah.
we'll see. I don't know, dog.
I
I'm,
don't
I'm
know either.
afraid of them moving Jameson and St. Brown in that slot and
Yeah,
attacking
they
us
still
that
have
way.
they still have Akuda listed as questionable, but
I think he'll play. He's
I
been
think he'll
practicing
play.
this.
He's long. I would like him in the slot, but you could also kind of mix around the Texans DBs.
Yeah,
Even though you have Akuda, you kind of place different people in different areas. So it'll be interesting to
situationally
see.
too.
Yeah,
Situationally as well.
I mean, I want to see them go see what they can do with the 4-3 defense. I mean, i- can we play 4-3 defense when needed? I want to see how
Yeah,
that will look for the Texans. I know you have Petrie out there all the time, but
that's a
how
lot
would
of
that
zone.
4-3?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
It's a lot of zone coverage.
Yeah, so like when we need to, how would that look? And I mean, Devin White looks like he's getting in shape. Autry out there on that 4-3, putting those bigger bodies on bigger bodies. I want to
Hmm.
see what if it has to be up to Miko's sleeve, and it has to be coming out pretty soon. I just want to see how it looks and see if
Yeah,
we're able to
yeah.
be there. I like Hanson and Hewitt impact the 4-3 defense as well, man. They played
Hmm.
good, so you should have faith in your linebackers. Um, yeah, I want to see how that will roll. But keeping it rolling on the last topic we'll talk about today, let's hear your thoughts about the betting lines. You got the lines at -3.5. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's fair. It's showing that Vegas thinks the Texans being at home, being undefeated at home, and the fact that our defense is a top five defense will play a big factor in this game. It's hard to win a lot of games in the NFL, right? And I think the
Right.
Lions are on a 6 game winning streak, and so they're favored. But I
Yeah.
mean, you don't even get much value if you take the spread with the Lions. So that lets you know that Vegas thinks that this could be an upset.
Yeah, the over and under is at 48.5 on most sites. So
Hmm.
just looking at that, the over and under is at 48.5. They think it's going to be a little bit of a high scoring game,
Yep.
24 something. Somebody's going to hit the 30s possibly. I don't know if that'd necessarily be the case, but I think the Texans come into this game and just lean on a defense heavily.
Yeah.
Um, and we haven't seen the Texans average 18.1 points a game. So we
Hmm.
haven't seen the Texans truly just blow it out the water consistently. So that over and under, how you feel about that?
I like it. I'm gonna tell you why. Because the Lions play a lot of man defense. They
Right.
play a lot of man defense. So that's two plays can, you know what I'm saying, change the outlook of the game when you're in man
True.
coverage. So that
True.
allows for big plays. And then the Texans, if our defense is weak at anything, is giving up big plays. So
Right.
I think that's factored into it as well. I actually like the over
You I
on
like
this
the
one.
over.
Yeah.
I I can see the over in this one, but I'm gonna lean towards the Texans not being able to score here as effectively just with the trends that we have. I'm gonna go with the under. I don't see Detroit being able to just go crazy on the Texans. Everybody's scared of Detroit, but I don't see them going crazy. 21 points to the Jets. Like teams like that, I think the Texans are stay in range type team.
Yeah.
So I can see this being, I can see it hitting around 45 to 46, but I don't see it going to the 48.5, man. Just
Yeah.
because I think the Texans are gonna, it's gonna be a grinding game for the Lions, especially in the first half. The Texans do well in the first half. They don't go let teams go too crazy on them in the first half. It's the second half is when you typically see teams take off, especially with the defense running around and on the field so much because the Texans can't get anything started. So I think that
Right.
it'll be one of those 46 and a half, and it might be under that, dude, because I don't see that I don't see Tank that everybody knows is only going to be Tank Dell more than likely at the starting receiver if Nico Collins is there. I don't.
Hmm.
Xavier Hutchinson hasn't shown us anything. Mechie hasn't shown us anything. The tight ends aren't catching well. Texans just have to. We have to see what they're going to do on offense, man. And it's crazy to say the Texans' offensive line has impacted the team so much. You just don't know what you're going to get from them, and it's
Right.
fixable.
Right.
Bro,
But
it's fixable, bro.
I
So
think at home though, the Texans are averaging around like 22 points at home. I got
yeah,
to check that out. They're averaging over 20 points at home, and I think the game is probably going to be like a 27-24 kind of deal, and so
yeah,
that's why I'm taking the over on
yeah.
that because I mean our defense is really good, but I think they were kind of exposed in that second half of the Jets game, and I really like the offensive coordinator in Detroit, Ben Johnson, and
Yeah.
so I like the over, and I like the Texans to cover the spread, but barely.
Yeah, the Texans average about 20, about 23. It looks like about 23 with quick math at home.
Yeah.
So they should be able to do well at that. But that talks about the betting guys. So in this episode, we went through a few things. We talked about the stats for the game, some big stats for the Texans and Lions, home field
Mhm.
advantage for the Texans. We went through will Nico Collin return and some of the injury reports. We talked about our key matchups. We talked about the Texans D line versus the Detroit O line, the Texans. Then we talked about the Texans secondary versus Detroit receivers, and we closed it out with the betting odds. I'm
Mhm.
Lance Hayes.
I'm Jeremy Anajula.
Like, subscribe, share on Sports Social Live at Sports Social TV on X. We out.